Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Very much for being with us on UBC TV. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. Earlier on, I had told you that I'll be having a team from the World Bank Group with whom we are going to be discussing the Uganda or the Country Partnership Framework and the Public Financing Review. Now we want to unpack the Uganda Country Partnership Framework and also the Public Finance Review, just to give you background over what happened. Now, on Monday, we saw that is Uganda and the World Bank. Uganda was represented by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi. And we signed two very important documents there. That is the Country Partnership Framework and also the Public Finance Review. Now, with me to discuss this, I have Amachi Jean Noel, who is with me, and he is the Senior Operations Officer, the World Bank Group. You're most welcome, Amachi.
Thanks for having me here.
It's really a pleasure. And just next to me, I have Cyril Dipon, who is the Senior Economist, the World Bank Group. You're most welcome.
Good morning, Robert. Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure having you this morning, and of course I'm very aware that Ugandans are eager to know these two important documents and what they mean to them, but also so much they need to know. Now I'll begin by letting our audience know, when we talk about the World Bank Group team, a person hearing of this for the very first time, of course people know the World Bank, the World Bank, but to give shape to this discussion, Cyril, please take us through, what is this about? What does it do?
No, thank you, Robert. That's actually a fair question. So the World Bank is a development partner to start with, right? It supports countries in achieving their development goals. And it does so in several ways. We are an institution that has both knowledge components, so we do a lot of analytical work that can inform the government, the private sector, development partners, the civil society around how to achieve development goals. And we have operational work, so we do lending to governments for projects, for support to reform these types of projects. And we are a bank that is owned by the 189 countries, including Uganda. And so we are not, maybe one thing to clarify, Robert, is that we're not a commercial bank. We are truly a development bank that works directly. We don't lend to individuals, we don't lend, we have a private sector arm, but most of the lending we do is actually to the government. And so we support government on their development journey. And the World Bank mission is actually ending extreme poverty, boosting shared prosperity on.
Now, Amachi, yesterday we saw the launch, that is of the Country Partnership Framework for Uganda, and this is for the next 10 years. Now, for the benefit of our viewer, one would want to know, what is the ultimate goal of this new World Bank Group strategy?
Thank you, Robert. Actually, the World Bank Group in Uganda developed its new Country Partnership Framework to support and stand by the side of the government of Uganda and by the side of the people of Uganda over the next 10 years to ensure that we translate the country ambition into real development outcomes. The overarching objective of the Country Partnership Framework that the World Bank have Board of Executive Directors adopted is to ensure that
the country growth is private sector led. The socio-economic transformation that the government has framed under its tenfold growth strategy and the fourth national development plan is really part of the country partnership framework that we framed as we ensured during the design of this partnership framework to ensure that we align closely, I may say, to the ambition of the country of Uganda. So for us, as an institution, as Cyril was saying, one World Bank Group institution naming the IDA, the part of the institution that lent to the government under concessional arrangements with the IFC, which is the private part, the private branch of the institution who deal with the private sector and handle private sector development in our member countries, and MIGA, who is there to de-risk investment opportunity and crowding private sector in investment in infrastructure, water, sanitation, and so on. So those three institutions are coming together to support the agenda of the country of Uganda to ensure that over the next 10 years, we definitively tackle the job challenge this country is facing. Each year in Uganda, Robert, 650,000 new entrants get into the job market, while an average of 200,000, 300,000 jobs are created. So the job challenge is there. And for the country to transform its path, given the ambition of the government has set under the 10-4 growth strategy, we need definitively to tackle the job challenges. And that's the North Star of the job agenda, the North Star of the country partnership framework the World Bank Group have adopted. And we intend to definitively go over both, as it is said, with advisory and knowledge generation, with investment, but also crowding in private sector to support the country agenda. So we intend over the next year to crowd in, through the three institutions I quoted, IDA, IFC, and MIGA, to crowd in around 3.5 billion of private sector capital. That should be the transformational agenda we intend to achieve for the people of Uganda, for the government of Uganda, and for Uganda to thrive. This country have strong assets. Okay? Oil is coming in next year. Strong capital endowment, natural endowment. The government has a clear vision, and the bank is really ready to stand by the side of the people of Uganda and the government of Uganda to ensure that this transformational agenda is effectively achieved. That the overall architecture of the country partnership framework that we launched yesterday.
Very interesting to know that we have what it takes as a country to get there. But there's more now when we talk about growing our economy tenfold by 2040. This sounds something that requires massive investment, but also proper programming as well. Now, how is the World Bank Group supporting Uganda? And do you think this is achievable by 2040?
No, that's a very good question. So, of course, that's ambitious. But it's ambitious, but it's not out of reach, right? You have a starting GDP at about 60 to 70 billion USD. You have an objective at 500. What this means is that if Uganda was to achieve tenfold and reach that objective by 2040, more or less it would need to grow by 10% a year in real terms. Now, oil will help, but of course, in order to achieve these objectives, you need to gear public policy, fiscal policy, the government's tool towards achieving this objective. And so it is ambitious, but it's not out of reach. And then perhaps to reinforce what Jean-Noël just mentioned, the public sector is not expected to do this alone, right? So you have objectives in the tenfold growth strategy in terms of investment, which public investment alone cannot foster. And so one of the objectives of both the tenfold growth strategy and the Uganda CPF is actually how do we best use the resources, the bank resources, the government resources, in order to crowd in financing from the private sector, right? What will make a farmer want to invest more? The infrastructure maybe, the skills maybe. So these are the things that as the World Bank and as a government you need to focus on in order to multiply the amount of financing that you're putting in the economy. And so that is again, the objective of the tenfold is ambitious, but there's a large set of tools that you can use in order to support it, and both public spending and the World Bank spending can be geared towards that direction. And we're bringing significant resources to the table, right? So the current World Bank portfolio is about 5 billion.
Yeah.
4.9 billion, something like this.
7 billion, yeah.
Over the next 3 years, it's expected to be a package of 2 billion for an economy that's 70 billion. It's quite significant.
Yes.
And then with the private sector arm, so the International Finance Corporation and the guarantees component of the World Bank, then we can crowd in additional private financing to further support the government's objective.
Desmond, still, before we move away from that, you're so much passionate and focused on the private sector. Why?
Let me take this one. The world is changing, Robert. You've seen worldwide official development assistance, aid to low-income countries is decreasing. And government worldwide, as in Uganda, are also having fiscal constraints. Cyril well played to talk about the fiscal constraint the government of Uganda is facing. And then tackling the jobs agenda and crowding capital to support the country transformational agenda won't work if the private sector is not at the head of the transformational agenda the country intends to achieve. So building really deep, bold, strong partnership with the private sector will be important. In Uganda, the small and medium entities, a key player of job creations. Okay, we may think about external private sector coming in the country, but we need to strengthen the capacity and the possibility for the local private sector in the country. During the launch of the CPF yesterday, two representatives of the private sector put 3 bold ideas on the table. The first one that get my attention was the need for the reforms and the public policy to be credible and previsible. It's about what should be the signal that the private sector should get so that they can be effective in the country. So previsibility of the reforms. Second thing, jointly with the government of Uganda and with the other development partners in the country, we need to stand by the side of the private sector to ensure that the cost of doing business in Uganda is reduced. Infrastructure bottlenecks are important in Uganda here. Uganda is a landlocked country, so how do you tackle the infrastructure bottleneck? Getting a container from Mombasa to Kampala costs around 700 per ton, I may say, while from Mombasa to Nairobi, it's around $250 US per ton. So there's a challenge of cost of doing business in the country. So the transformational agenda that the country have adopted, to achieve an economy of $500 billion US by 2040 won't work if the private sector is not at the head of the transformational agenda that we intend to achieve. This said, when we think of job creations for the youth of Uganda, ensuring the improved skills for the people of Uganda won't work if we don't partner with the private sector who know what they need. Okay, to create more jobs, more and better jobs. And that's important, better jobs. It's not about just getting jobs. It's about
meaningful employment.
youth employment, but better job for the youth and for the people of Uganda and for the women as well.
Yes.
So that's an agenda that we cannot achieve if the private sector is not part of the narrative.
Very interesting. Now, that also brings me still to ask you, Machi, when we talk about this signing away from the macro economy and also the many dollars, billions of dollars coming in to an everyday Ugandan, someone in the street there, someone in their gardens, what does this mean for the next 10 years?
I will respond to this question with very simple term, and I'll come to what the bank is doing on a daily basis. Recently, I mean, over the last, I may say, over the last 10 to 12 years, you've heard about the NUSAF, No Ugandan Social
Rehabilitation Fund?
No, I mean, there's a program that tackled, I may say, lack of resilience and lack of responsiveness to shock for the low-income countries and for the fragile, I mean, low-income household and for the fragile households. So on a daily basis, the World Bank, on the social protection agenda, for instance, supporting the and this is linked to the Paris development model that the government is
PDM.
Yeah, the PDM agenda that the government is implementing to ensure that even in remote cities, remote villages, low income, I won't say poor, no, I won't say poor, low income households are able to benefit from the support to ensure that they come and be productive. You've seen in Kampala a lot of investment in roads, improvement, infrastructure, and so on. The GKMA program that Kampala KCCA, okay, is leading with the bank, improving road and road infrastructure in Kampala and other cities is, I mean, doing on the daily basis. You have also a lot of investment in educations. School constructions and teacher hiring and improving the education management system, and also investment in health. During the Ebola COVID-19 crisis, the bank was there to support the government of Uganda to respond effectively to the COVID-19 crisis that the country was facing worldwide, but specifically in Uganda, how the bank operated. And going forward, under the work that Cyril led for the Public Finance Review, we intend to be part of the narrative how to improve the use of fund for the Ministry of Finance and the Line Ministry to ensure that we deliver on the value for money. Money that's put, public money that's put at work, get the return that we intend to achieve under the overall support of not only the government of Uganda, but for the World Bank, for the other development partners.
Well, now when we return from this break, we are also going to look at the Public Finance Review, the PFR, that was launched yesterday. And here, Sri will tell us why we saw these two launched together, one focusing on taxes, and of course, that is government spending, being launched at the same time with this broader picture of the 10-year partnership. Let's go for this break. We'll return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Are you looking for a home away from home? Then this is the place for you. My name is Nika G, and welcome to Hotel Le Confidential.
With 84 comfortable rooms where you can relax and feel safe. Each room has a lovely view of green vegetation, Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and a tasty breakfast.
Children can have fun at our kids water park and our kids play area. You can also enjoy our world-class health club, spa, sauna, gym, boutique, and sky blue swimming pool.
Thank you for choosing Hotel Confidential, where every stay is unforgettable. Come and stay in comfort, right at home, today, tomorrow, and always.
The World Football Spectacle is here! From the vibrant cities of Canada, the passion of Mexico, and the grand stages of the United States, the FIFA World Cup 2026 is set to ignite the planet. Every goal, every save, every moment of glory, live and unforgettable on UBC TV and all its radio stations.
From the streets of Rio to the nights in Spain.
Follow Africa's finest, football's biggest stars, and the battle for the most converted trophy in world football.
1, 3, 1, chance to play.
Where legends rise, dreams come alive, and history is made. UBC is the home of the FIFA World Cup 2026. Stay tuned to UBC TV and all UBC's radio stations, bringing the world to Uganda, one match at a time.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Ginshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules. Plant extract, scientific ratio. Take 3 capsules each time. The active ingredient accelerates fat burning, eat twice a day. Don't take a detour. Weight loss starts now. Ginshikang L-carnitine with chromium capsules helps you stay in shape. Please follow medical advice when taking this product.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Thank you for keeping it with us. It is still Good Morning Uganda Extra, and I have a team from the World Bank with whom we are unpacking the country partnership framework and the public finance review. Now, these were signed yesterday, and we had our Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi, witnessing this going on. What do they mean to you, a Ugandan? What is the content in these two? And also important, how are we going to achieve the tenfold growth by 2040? But before I went for a break, I was asking Shil, why these two were signed yesterday. And this is something that many would want to know, because there are two huge documents. When we talk about, that is the PRF, and also we talk about the country, this framework. You see that these are two different, but each one is relatively important. Why were they concurrently signed yesterday?
So the country partnership framework is a larger exercise than the public finance review, right? So the country partnership framework sets the ambition, the different sets of tools. The World Bank has numerous tools to support the government in that journey. The public finance review, as you mentioned before the break, is about how the government collects revenues, how it spends it, where it spends it, and so but it's really one of the critical tools to support what the PFR does. It gives recommendations, right? But fiscal policy, on which this promotes recommendations, is one of the most powerful tool to support the tenfold growth strategy and the achievement of the country partnership framework. So and the public finance review has a very simple overarching message, right? Which is align your fiscal policy with the tenfold growth strategy. And the tenfold growth strategy and the country partnership framework have a shared ambition. And so the reason why they're launched together is that fiscal policy is one of the key contributors to the country partnership framework and how these objectives will be aligned. So for instance, you have in the public finance review, one thing that it says, that it shows, for instance, is that the cost of the debt service, the interest payments, right now exceed combined, right? So the public finance review is here to say, well, now is the time to reorient the public spending in a way that supports the tenfold growth strategy and the country partnership framework, right? One thing the public finance review will say is that, well, public investment needs to increase, and the quality of public investment needs to increase if we are to achieve the objectives of the country partnership framework and the tenfold growth strategy. And the public finance review is here to give some recommendations as to how to increase both the level, create the fiscal space, how to spend it better, right? Increase its efficiency, make sure that the budget that's allocated actually translates into better road, more reliable power, better urban infrastructure. And so the fiscal policy cannot do it alone, right? It's not only through fiscal policy which you are going to achieve these objectives, but it's a key component, and that's why we launched it together. And that's also why the public finance review has, like the CPF, has a 10-year horizon. Development ambitions.
A quick one to you. Now, these two documents are very important, and of course one supports the other. And they seem, if we follow them very well, we can achieve our tenfold by 2040. But I know Uganda is an independent state. And of course, the World Bank are partners. How far do you go as far as ensuring we stick to plan and not digress as the World Bank team?
So we of course, as you mentioned, we provide recommendations, right? I think one of the values of the public finance review, to your point about there being so many documents, is that the public finance review really collects all of the documents, all of the aspects of fiscal policy, all of the aspects of tax revenues, all of the aspects around where it is spent and what are the benefits, right? So it brings in one priorities, right? The high-level picture. And this is where it adds value. And then, of course, these are recommendations, and they're the governments to adopt or not. But I think what's critical in the public finance review, or at least what is quite compelling, is that it shows that if you implement a set of reforms that are outlined in the PFR, you can actually have, so we modeled the effects of these reforms on the Ugandan economy. And it will show, for instance, that GDP could be 8% higher by 2035 by adopting a set of reform. It explains which are the drivers: agricultural productivity, human capital accumulation, which takes more time to materialize because, you know, education, better education takes some time so that the workers enter the labor force, And so it really gives you the benefits, and it also, to the jobs North Star that Amanshi mentioned earlier, it does also point out that we can estimate that PFR recommendation alone would create 3.2 million more and better jobs. And that's a fraction of the ambition, right? But the CPF is really, the country partnership framework is really, bringing it all together with the other types of instruments to show how the World Bank can support the government in there. And so on our end, we have now, a stable foundation for the recommendations, and we will be using it to see, what's implemented, what works, what doesn't. It's flexible, of course. But of course, it's the government's reform agenda to develop.
I would love also Amachi to supplement on that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Robert. I wanted to weigh in here. You said it right. Uganda is an independent country.
Yes.
And the country development is owned by the people of Uganda, by the government of Uganda. Okay, as Sili rightly said, the World Bank Group is a partner of the government of Uganda for the people of Uganda, but a strong partner. And the CPF, as framed, has a flexible window, I may say. Each year of the CPF, both either the concessional window of the World Bank Group, IFC, the private sector window of the World Bank Group, and MIGA, the guarantee window of the World Bank Group, will come together to do a business planning exercise as each of the CPF. Meaning, we will see what the government is doing, we will see where we stand in what we were doing as an institution, as a group, and we will adjust our operations for the new year in which we'll be getting in. So it's not that we are, the CPF is like in a stone, we cannot change the way we operate it. It will be adjusted to the conditions that are prevailing in the country and the policy choices, the reform choices that the government of Uganda will adopt, okay, going forward. So we are going over a very adaptive approach to ensure that even if we are very focused on our North Star, more and better job creations, we adjust to the prevailing environment, the prevailing condition in the country going forward.
Well, I love that adjustment. Now I come back. In your previous submission, we were looking at reforms, but Uganda will expect first oil early next year. And we believe these monies will be enough to solve much of our problems. Why would we then focus into reforms making, yet we know our monies are coming?
No, that's a very important question, and one that we tackle very forcefully in the public finance review. I mean, the first thing to say about oil is that it is meaningful, the oil revenues. We're talking about 2.2% of GDP over the next decade at least. In comparison, tax revenues for Uganda is about 13.1%. So it's a very nice top-up, but it's not transformational. The other thing we need to mention is that the oil sector in itself does not create jobs. Right? So oil revenues won't create jobs unless this oil revenue is used in a way that can foster job creation. And so what we an accelerator, but it's not in itself we've seen this before, right? So there has been, for instance, a commodity boom in sub-Saharan Africa, like in 2014, where prices went up, and so. But what happened is that these countries mostly consumed that wealth. And after it was over, after the cycle was over, what was left to show for the oil? Well, not much. And the fiscal position of the government had actually deteriorated at the end of this period.
So it was more of a curse than a blessing.
It can be more of a curse than a blessing. In many countries, we talk about the oil curse. But if used well, it can be a great accelerator, right? So we, at the bank, where we say, well, Uganda has oil. Oil is wealth under the ground. When you take it out, if you spend it, that wealth is gone. If you take it out and you invest it in foundations for growth, in infrastructure, in human capital, in strong institutions, then that oil, that wealth that was under the ground becomes wealth over the ground and in a sustained way. And so we have to think more about what should be done with this oil and how to manage it wisely. And maybe the second thing I'll mention on this is that even with oil, if there are no reforms, we have a scenario in the Public Finance Review that shows that debt and debt service could keep on increasing, even with oil. And so it does not solve...
That is something I hadn't figured out. Why would we still be borrowing and having so much to service our debt when you have a resource?
Well, if you think about Uganda's GDP is about 6 to 7%. Sorry, the Uganda's fiscal deficit is 6 to 7% of GDP. And the oil revenues are about 2%. So you are not, and part of that revenue should be saved, and that's what the government wisely intends to do. So it's not there to substitute for the important reforms that Uganda needs to do in the area of domestic revenue mobilization. We know that tax collection in Uganda is below that of peers, and Uganda aspires to be an upper middle income country. These countries collect over 20% of their GDP in taxes. To be able to finance the spending that upper middle income countries finance. And so it doesn't substitute for the need to collect more revenues, and it doesn't substitute for the need to really think through how do we use those revenues, the non-oil and the oil revenues, in order to support growth and job creation in Uganda. And that's really the message of the Public Finance Review on oil.
Well explained. So no excitement, reforms are a must, and we must do things the right way, as according to when we look at the PRF. Now, coming back to you, Amachi, apart from what we've been discussing, the World Bank Group, the PFR, and the 10-year strategic plan, let's now look at what else is the World Bank Group doing in Uganda.
I mean, previously you asked me, Uganda being an independent country, what can the World Bank do? And I think those two questions are related. I mean, for me, and as an African working in this institution, in this international institution, I think African countries in general, and Uganda in particular, will gain a lot from the knowledge the bank can generate. It's a powerful institution where deep, well-articulated, well-framed, strong knowledge can be obtained. And the agenda the country have, being an economy of $500 billion by 2040, won't go without deep and well-articulated knowledge to frame the policy, both at the macro level, but in each sector: energy, infrastructure, water, education, agriculture, health. And that's important. And that's something which is part of the country partnership framework, generating the knowledge to inform not only the policy, but the operations, the investment we intend to have in this country. So knowledge generation. Second thing that we are doing on this one, we've been doing like since the bank started to intervene in Uganda, investing a lot in foundational sectors. I mean, education, health, sanitation, irrigation, infrastructure, a lot of investment. The other thing that the bank is powerful very powerful in doing is create the momentum around an agenda. Partners in the narrative, but getting the private sector as part of the transformational agenda the country intends to achieve. During the launch yesterday, two representatives of the private sector called upon the bank to be the engine of the dialogue between the government of Uganda and the private sector. We can catalyze the partnership, and we know how to do it. The bank knows how to do it. The bank knows how to do it. The bank has a tool, and given that this institution is like intervene worldwide, we can crowd in information and knowledge from any single country that are performed. Given the challenge the country is facing, we can crowd in knowledge from whatever in the world to inform the policy and the choices the government can make for the people of Uganda and for the good sake of Uganda people.
Well, so much that you have learned that the World Bank is doing here in Uganda, but I'm very interested when I hear about concentration on the private sector, because we know that things are changing. It is no longer governments creating the jobs. It is governments empowering the private sector to create these jobs, because government jobs are really very few. And when we talk about our tenfold growth by 2040 to get there, of course, focus must be on the private sector. Now, time seems to be flying. Otherwise, we would love to know more of the country partnership framework and the public financing review. These were signed yesterday or launched yesterday. And of course, they are going to shape so much that is going to be done for the next 10 years. But I'll just give each of my guests a minute or two for their parting shot, beginning with Cyril.
Thank you, Robert. No, so if I had to leave your audience with something, it's that, you know, Uganda is a bit at a critical juncture, right? You have the oil coming. Important decisions are ahead. Now, the government has put together a very good strategy, a very robust strategy for changing the lives of ordinary Ugandans, right? So it's really a critical moment to align, you know, the tools that there are in order to support that strategy. And for ordinary Ugandans, for the private sector, that also means you know, buying into that strategy, right? So contributing. So we had the private sector last week as well, saying, well, you know, now that the government has given a clear vision, you know, the firms also will know what the priorities are. The firms will need to engage in the dialogue with the government to understand what is needed for the economy to grow tenfold. When we talk about fiscal policy, you know, what types of investment are critical for private sector to invest? Where is a road most needed? In which sector are the skills more needed? And so I think again the time is really key to say that the tenfold growth strategy is the objective, and now we need to align the country's strategy. The firms, the government, the private sector need to converge to that same objective.
Well, thank you so much, Cyril, and Amachi, as we move out of the studios, your party.
Robert, let me share the following. The World Bank Group stand by the side of the people of Uganda, by the side of the government of Uganda. On behalf of our division director, Dr. Chimia Ofan, and on our country manager, Ayo, I want to say the country partnership framework has been adopted to ensure that we have the North Star, more and better job creations for the people of Uganda, both with sustained reforms led by the government of Uganda, with investment in people, health and education, investment in infrastructure, and to ensure people are connected to markets, and to ensure the private sector thrives in Uganda, and also working closely with the other development partners on the ground to ensure alignment in the operation and strengthen impact. We are confident that this country can achieve its ambition of becoming an economy that's achieved $500 billion US by 2040. We believe in Uganda. The World Bank Group believe in Uganda.
Well, thank you, Srel and Amachi, for your time, and of course the World Bank, because these are development partners. When we look at the amount of money that is going to be coming in the next 10 years, but also the reforms, if government takes them on, what jobs they're going to create and enable us to achieve our tenfold economic growth by 2040, Uganda seems to be a better place for all of us. Well, see you tomorrow. God bless you. Good morning.